Let's talk about this a little bit with Chris McGrane. He's an activist and political commentator who joins us from Lancashire. So you have what is amounted to 6 of these missiles that have struck the terrorists inside of Syria, and it was quite successful in terms of what occurred. The focus has been here, aside from the success of eliminating terrorists and their weapons, the regional message that this sends. What kind of message do you think it sends?
Strength from Iran, and it reaffirms their commitment to fighting terrorism. Also, at the same time, this is also shows an act of resilience and independence from America's demands. They've shown time and time again that they want to try and dismantle Iran's ballistic missile capabilities. A lot of this is to do with America doesn't want anybody within the region to be able to defend themselves when the time comes that America decides to invade these countries or take out its own proxy wars against these countries. It wants them to be weak, so it doesn't want them to have any sort of weapons capability where they can actually fight back. Like I said, this attack was in response to the terror attack in the Iranian parliament and Ayatollah Khomeini's shrine last week. As far as I'm aware, this is the first time Iran have actually used their missile capability outside of Iran. They've tested them domestically before. So this is the first time that the world has shown that they work. As far as I'm aware, the targets that were hit were logistics centres and car bomb factories. So it has hindered Daesh's ability to carry out further attacks, albeit to a minimal effect. These things will be quickly replaced. But it does send a very strong message. So, and at the same time, the Syrian army have managed to take advantage of this. We've seen in the last 24 hours, the Syrian army have actually taken ground in that area. I was reading this morning they've actually done a daring behind the lines attack where they've actually managed to come back with ISIS vehicles that they've managed to seize off ISIS. I don't think these advances would have been able to have been achieved if it wasn't for Iran's interference. Well, not interference, its involvement in this region.
When we take a look at the way that Iranian officials from the IRGC specifically have relayed their message, and they said this is a message to the backers of these terrorists. Who do you think these backers are, and what is the message that is sending? And ultimately, if U.S. is one of them, and I'm assuming it is, what is U.S.'s policy when it comes to Iran?
Well, just to answer the first part of your question, I believe that part of the Foreign Minister's statement was aimed at Saudi Arabia. They've been backing Takfiri groups in Syria from the start. We've seen weapons shipments apprehended. We've seen drugs that ISIS they've developed a taste for some sort of cocaine, which we've seen planefuls of that being seized from Saudi Arabia in Lebanon. I think it's about 6 months ago that was seized. So we know material is leaving Saudi Arabia for Syria. We know that not only with material, but ideological encouragement. And with the situation on the Arab Peninsula at the moment, particularly between Saudi Arabia and Qatar, I think Saudi Arabia is very volatile at the moment. And I think this show of strength will possibly reel in some of the hardliners in Saudi Arabia that will realize that they cannot contest with the strength of a fully armed Iran. And the second part of your question about America, like I said, their plan is to steamroll over any opposition in the region. They want puppet states. Iran has shown since its revolution that it will not back down to Western pressure or to anybody's pressure. It is its own independent nation. It has its own aspirations, and it wants to maintain its own security and the security of its close friends and allies. And that is what Iran has been doing through this whole civil war in Syria.
Okay, we appreciate it. Thank you very much for that. Chris McGrane, activist and political commentator.